Hi, it's Jessica. Welcome back to English Daily Talk. Today's story is about a small piece of paper that traveled with me through apartments, jobs, and seasons. A yellow note with 4 quiet words that changed how I try. This is a note on yellow paper. There is a drawer in my kitchen full of almost useful things: rubber bands that lost their snap, a screwdriver that doesn't quite fit, a stack of takeout menus, and a grocery list from 3 addresses ago. The drawer sticks when you pull it, then gives up with a small sigh, like a stubborn friend who decides to be kind. In the very back of this drawer, under a postcard and a packet of sugar that survived 3 purges, lives a rectangle of yellow paper. It's a little soft around the edges, like something that's been held often, worried often, packed and repacked. The corners curl. There's a faint coffee kiss on the bottom right corner, a ring the shape of a distant moon. And in the middle, in a handwriting I know by heart, are 4 words. Proud of you for trying. No exclamation point. No lecture. No, but next time. Just 4 words with a gravity that keeps finding me. The letters lean slightly to the right, like they're walking toward me. They belong to my dad. I first found that note when I was 19. I'd come home from an exam I was sure I'd ruined. Math had slid away from me like a wet cup. I remember the fluorescent lights humming like a nervous insect, the clock counting out a language that didn't want me. I didn't cry in the exam hall. I waited until the bus. I took the seat by the window and practiced the art of silent tears. The kind you dry with the inside of your sleeve so strangers don't have to feel helpless around you. At home, the apartment was doing its brave impression. Tidy, warm, trying. My dad was in the kitchen, leaning over the open drawer, looking for batteries that didn't exist. I didn't want to talk. I wanted to disappear into the clean lie of a shower, into pajamas, into the kind of sleep that erases the day and gives you a new map. When I finally went to the drawer for a spoon, because the drawer is also where we keep spoons, of course, I saw the note. Yellow, centered on a stack of napkins like a small flag. The 4 words were all it said. No name, no signature. And in the corner, almost invisible, the date. I carried that paper to my room the way you carry a glass ornament before you know if it belongs to you. I sat on the floor and read it again. And again. Something moved inside me. Not a loud motivation, not a pep talk, but a small, steady agreement. Yes, I tried. That counts. The exam grade didn't change, but the story I told myself did. I taped the note to the side of my bookshelf where it wouldn't shout at me, where it could whisper. Years have a way of adding dust to the tops of door frames and calm to the middle of sentences. The note traveled with me the way hope travels. Not in a straight line, but faithfully. It stood guard on my first apartment wall, crooked like my understanding of adulthood. It lived inside a book during a winter when I couldn't stand to look at it, when trying felt like a child's word, and I was determined to be a serious person who didn't need simple kindness. That winter, I learned that serious people need simple kindness most of all. The yellow changed shade as the rooms changed. In one place, it was lemon against a blue wall. In another, it turned the color of tea forgotten on a desk. Through each move, it found a way to arrive before me. I'd open a box labeled Misk, and there it would be, lying on top as if to say, I got here first. We're still doing this. Whenever life asked me to measure myself, new jobs, new cities, new measures of success that arrived like uninvited guests, the note offered a different unit. Not pounds of results, not miles of achievement, attempts, effort made honestly, reaching in good faith. The count of doors knocked on, Letters sent, questions asked, hands raised. I tried to throw it out twice. Once during a minimalist phase when I thought fewer objects would mean fewer thoughts. Once during a frustrated spring cleaning when I wanted to make room by force. Both times I put the note in a trash bag, tied the bag, then untied it again. I didn't feel guilty. I felt practical. The note was not wallpaper, it was architecture. Keep the walls that hold the house up. I started to notice the note's voice in places that didn't include paper. A neighbor learning to walk again after surgery, shuffling along the hallway, brave in her socks. A friend returning to painting after 10 quiet years, her wrist unsure, her eyes gentle. A boy on the bus whispering to a paper bag, "Hang in there." I like to believe there was cake inside. I like to believe kindness is often cake-shaped. Trying has weight. Real, muscular weight. You feel it in the jaw when you unclench. You feel it in the chest when you release the lie that everything depends on you. Trying is admitting you are not a machine programmed for immediate excellence. You are human, equipped for iteration. The yellow paper kept telling me, be equipped for iteration. There was a Tuesday that smelled like rain and printer ink. I'd promised myself I would make a phone call I didn't want to make. Not the life-ending kind, the dignity kind. The, we need to talk about expectations and how they hurt kind. I had rehearsal speeches in my head, scripts with precise punctuation and perfect outcomes. I could win arguments in the shower like an Olympic sport. But the phone sat there, heavy with reality. My rehearsals never included the other person's lines. I cleaned the counter. I fed the plants. I became deeply interested in a tiny loose thread on the dish towel. When I finally pulled open the drawer to find my courage, because where else would you look? I saw the yellow note. It lay on top of the takeout, menus, a gentle directive from a friend who knew all my cheap exit routes. I put the note on the table. I put my phone beside it, screen down. I did 3 slow inhales. On the 4th, I dialed. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't TED Talk brave. It sounded like 2 people trying, which it was. I said, I need to say this carefully, and I might not say it well the first time. They said, I'm listening. I said, when deadlines change at the last minute, I stop trusting myself, and I start performing instead of working. I get loud outside and small inside. They said, I didn't know it hit you that way. There were apologies, real ones, the kind that include a plan. There was a silence that wasn't empty. It was furniture. We rearranged it until the room made sense again. When I hung up, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. The note looked at me from the table without looking. I heard the 4 words again, not as a medal, but as a measurement. I had increased the surface area of what I could face. That night, I taped the note to the inside of a cabinet door I open every morning. Not to display it, to let its quiet be routine, like vitamins. On my windowsill is a plant that should not be alive. I bought it out of stubborn optimism. The care card said, bright, indirect light, which in my apartment translates to, do your best and hope. I watered it carefully for a week, then forgot it for 3, convinced I had killed it with my inconsistency. I moved it to a corner where failing things go to hide, behind the toaster, where guilt can't see you. One Saturday, I decided to let sunlight touch every surface it could. I opened both windows. I wiped the glass with the shirt that had retired from public life. I found the plant in its shadowed exile, tilted toward a hint of light like a person leaning toward a laugh. I put it back on the windowsill, whispered the plant version of I'm sorry, and gave it water. Not hope, not a speech, just water. 3 days later, new leaves. The yellow note taught me that trying often looks this ordinary. It isn't grand speeches or public declarations. It's the unphotographed act of returning something to the windowsill and letting the sun do the part only sun can do. It's refusing to delete a draft in a mood. It's sending an email that begins, "I'm following up gently." It's putting your shoes by the door so tomorrow has one less excuse. Trying is not a dramatic posture. It's the choreography of small returns. I once taught a small evening class. English for adults, all of us tired and brave. There was a student who never spoke. He sat in the second row, third seat, near the door. His name tag curled at the edges like a leaf in late summer. Each week I invited him in small ways. Never cornered him, never announced him to the room's attention. Just put an extra word by his desk like a breadcrumb. On week 5, I wrote almost on the board. We practiced small sentences, the grammar of trying. I almost gave up. I almost understood. I almost asked. We laughed at how almost makes a sentence honest, how it reveals the closeness, the reach. It doesn't shame the miss, it honors the approach. At the end of class, the silent student waited until everyone left. He stood very still and said, "I almost talked today." Then he smiled, small and perfect, and walked out into the evening. On my way home, I bought a pad of yellow sticky notes. That night, I wrote, "Proud of you for trying" on the top sheet and stuck it to my fridge. The words were his as much as mine. The next week, he said a sentence. It was about the weather. It was about everything. In the dining room, I have a chair that wobbles. Only a little, but enough to announce itself at the wrong moments. If you lean in a certain direction, the chair argues softly with the floor. A tiny protest that says, "I am not prepared for drama." For months, I promised the chair a proper repair and offered only folded napkins, which is how people apologize when they don't mean it. I told myself I needed the right tools, a free weekend, YouTube mastery. Then one Thursday, I decided the chair had waited long enough. I turned it over. It looked back at me with the underside truth of all things. Loose screws, dust, a story about use and neglect. I tightened what could be tightened. I added a felt pad where wood had grown thin. When I set the chair upright, it didn't wobble. It breathed. The room felt newly trustworthy, like a friend who shows up on time. Trying often looks like this. Not grand progress, just restored trust in something small. The chair taught me an elegant equation. Stability, attention, 5 honest minutes. There are days when trying is not inspiring. It is simply heavy. You don't want a note. You want a nap. You don't want a sentence. You want the sentence to end. On one of those days, I opened the cabinet where the note lives and almost closed it again. The paper felt like an assignment. I didn't want to be cheered up. I didn't want to be measured. I wanted to be excused. Instead of reading the words, I read the coffee ring. I traced the imperfect circle with my finger, like following a map of a country that doesn't exist anymore. I thought about the morning that ring was made, how someone must have set a warm cup down too quickly or too slowly. I thought about the mess behind every kindness, the kitchen that isn't clean, the schedule that's too full, the human who meant well and also forgot to pick up the dry cleaning. I remembered that the note was not spelled by magic. A person chose to write it. A person who had bad days and busy days, and who still took 20 seconds to write a sentence that could survive years, moves, moods. Trying doesn't delete heaviness. It offers you a place to put it. I made a sandwich. I ate it slowly. I washed the plate with 2 hands. The day did not become light, but it became possible. I've learned there are 4 ways the note works on me. 1, as a mirror. When I'm tempted to measure myself by outcomes, it reflects me back to effort. It shows me the person in the act, not the scoreboard. 2, as a map. When I'm lost in my own perfectionism, it points toward the next small direction. Begin, continue, return. It doesn't demand drama. It suggests a street with less traffic. 3, as a voice coach. It changes the sound of my self-talk. My inner voice becomes a little more like someone who puts a hand on a shoulder and says, I see you working. Keep going. 4, as a bridge. It carries the message to others. I write it in emails now. Proud of you for trying this version. I say it in meetings. Thanks for attempting the difficult part first. The note invites me to be a witness to other people's courage. You can't keep every object and also keep the kind of space where a person can move. One spring, I opened the drawer and realized the yellow paper had taught me what it needed to teach. Not that I didn't need the words. I did. But they had moved inside me. I could hear them without seeing them. A friend had just lost her job. She was rebuilding mornings from scratch. The courage it takes to not perform when the audience is doubt. It's a courage you can't see from far away, only up close. I wrote her a letter and tucked the yellow note inside. I wrote on a new sticky note, same words, my smaller handwriting, and placed it in my cabinet. A continuation, not a replacement. When I handed my friend the letter, I told her the story about the drawer, the exam, the bus, the cake that might have been bread, the plant that forgave me, the chair that decided to trust the floor again. She cried the quiet way. We demolished a box of tissues with the precision of surgeons. And then we laughed at the shape of the coffee ring. Weeks later, she texted, Interview tomorrow. I'm not promising perfection. I'm promising attendance. Attendance is another word for trying. It's the act of bringing your whole, unfinished self to the moment that asks for you. If the yellow note could turn into actions, it would look like 3 small practices. Practice 1, the 2-minute return. Whenever I feel chaotic, I choose one tiny thing and do it without speed. Drink water, fold a towel, erase a whiteboard, wash an apple. No phone, no rush. It's not about productivity. It's about returning the nervous system to a room where it can sit. Practice 2. The draft rule, I don't delete on a bad day. I move drafts into a folder called Not Yet. Trying needs a place to rest. Many good things hide there until the weather changes. Practice 3. The kind sentence. After I attempt something difficult, I say one sentence out loud, even if it feels awkward. I'm proud of you for trying. Saying it out loud makes it real. The room hears it. My future self hears it too. I honor the try, not just the win. I'm allowed to return and begin again. I repair small things and trust grows. I speak to myself like a patient friend. I am proud of myself for trying. If today you are the person who doesn't want to try, I understand. There are days when the word try feels like a tall staircase with a broken handrail. If you need to sit at the bottom of the staircase, sit. If you need to cry there, cry. Trying can wait. The staircase isn't going anywhere. The note doesn't expire. If you can do one gentle thing, let it be attendance. Attend to one breath. Attend to one sip of water. Attend to the way your shirt feels on your shoulder. You are not failing at effort. You are practicing presence. And presence is the soil where effort grows when it's ready. When it's time, you will take the first step. And I will be proud of you for that too. Words and phrases from this story you can keep. Stubborn friend, something uncooperative but familiar, quiet agreement, a gentle yes inside yourself, equipped for iteration, prepared to try, adjust, try again, the choreography of small returns, the repeated act of coming back, furniture silence, a silence that supports the room, not empties it, attendance, the act of showing up even without perfection, speak exercise, 1 minute. Describe one object in your room and what it quietly teaches you. Use, it reminds me, it helps me, it teaches me. Write exercise, 3 lines. Today I tried. It felt. Next I will. The new note in my cabinet is paler, more pastel than lemon. My handwriting is smaller than my dad's. Sometimes I wish I could borrow his letters. Their confident tilt. Sometimes I wish he could see me now, still trying to earn 4 words he gave me with no condition. On the back of the new note, I wrote a date. I like the idea that future me will find it during a move or a morning when the drawer sticks. She will open the cabinet for a mug and see the pale square. She will read it. She will nod. She will breathe in through her nose and out through her mouth. Because the body understands what the mind forgets. Maybe she will pour coffee. Maybe tea. Maybe she will drink water because heroes are hydrated. Maybe she will call someone she loves. Maybe she will tend to a plant that forgave her again. Maybe she will sit in the chair that no longer wobbles and write to you. She will be practicing, not performing. She will be trying, which on that day, as on this one, will be enough. This was a note on yellow paper. If it helped, send this episode to someone who needs a smaller staircase today. Next time on Jessica's Quiet Stories, the peach on a Tuesday. Until then, speak gently to yourself. I'm proud of you for trying.